Hi, my name is Mark Halsey. I'm here with Fiona Halsey and we are Halsey Legal Services. The topic for today's discussion is super profits from acquiring impaired clients. And I'm here to discuss that with Fiona. And to kick it off, I'm very interested in the title. Is reference to super profits a little over the top?
No, not at all. What we're seeing at the moment is that at the moment, a good solid book of clients, one that's got a good age range, so everyone's not in their 80s, and it's got compliance well done. It's sitting across one or two platforms. You haven't had a whole lot of things go wrong. You've got good restraints in place on the advisors, that kind of thing. You're looking at around 2.8 times recurring revenue.
Right.
Okay. But there are other books which are much less valuable. Okay. And those books don't share those factors. And on those books, we are often seeing deals around the 1 times. Okay. So that's a really, if you think about that, that's a very significant difference, almost the difference between 1 and 3 times, really, because 2.8 is pretty close.
Okay. So what do we mean by impaired? Just to be clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
An impaired client list can result from a number of things. And those things could be, for example, if the principal has been banned, okay, that can have a really big effect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can have a situation where you don't have an enforceable restraint of trade over your advisors. So say you've got a situation where you've got a business and you've got maybe, say, 5 employed advisors. But when you actually go to look at it, you can't actually find enforceable restraints on them. That's really common.
Which means that the clients that are being sold are at risk.
That's right.
The advisor can walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, much less attractive to a purchaser.
Absolutely.
There can be poor records and poor compliance. Okay, we see that quite often. Or there can have been recent ASIC enforcement action against the group. And there are other factors as well, okay, but those are examples of the kind of factors that you would see which would cause a book to become impaired.
So it's not a black and white situation. There's lots of grey in the area.
Oh, absolutely. It's quite a range. And if you think about the situation where, say, for example, you've got, we looked at the 5 advisors.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you didn't have a restraint over any of them, okay, and you couldn't get a restraint over them as part of the sale process, okay, well, I would be surprised. People will not pay up front for that book, okay. But if you had a situation where, say, you've got 2 of the 5 are lacking those restraints, then you'd expect that to make a difference for the amount, wouldn't you? So it can be quite a grade.
And that can happen, can't it? Because advisors are recruited at different times. Sometimes the paperwork gets done, sometimes it doesn't get done. You can have part of your client list covered by restraints and part of it not.
The one I see all the time is when they've put the advisors in, okay, and then they've moved them to a group company, okay, and they haven't updated the agreement.
So a restructure.
That's right, exactly,
yeah.
and you don't have that. But for, no matter what there is there, for somebody if you've got a buyer who's keen and has got the resourcing to do it, okay, and they're ready and they've got the skill, okay, they can renovate that book in the same way that you can renovate an old house. And that can be just a superb outcome. You do have to be prepared the buyer has to be prepared to put in the elbow grease, same as with renovation. And so there are 3 areas where they probably really need to work on it. They'll need to work on the relationship with the clients, okay, because sometimes in the situations you're talking about, this can't be a handover.
Yes.
Okay, so say, for example, if you're dealing with the outcome of a banning, okay, well, if you're banned, ASIC hands the notice, you have to stop providing financial services that afternoon.
Sure.
Okay, so there's the time of handover is incredibly
restricted.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you need to deal with the relationship. Okay, then there may be situations where you need to get the compliance up to scratch. Okay, and then the other thing is that you may actually have fundamental problems with the products and strategies for the clients.
Yes.
So you might go into them, and I've worked on quite a lot of those too. So that can be.
Well, I've handled a number of the AFCA complaints, and the issue there's a thought that people who acquire a register, a client list rather, they do an establishment or initial SOA for the acquiring licensee, and then that's fine. Then they just do annual reviews and things will be great and the income will flow through and it'll justify the value of the register. But that's not strictly the case. If you've got a situation where one of the reasons, for example, why the register is being moved, etc., is because of poor advisor standards in the past. There could be poor products, there could be poor strategies in place. Once that is acquired by the new advisor, and the advisor does the SOA and strategy, etc., then there will be an obligation for them to correct any problems.
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And if they don't do it in a reasonable period of time and something blows up, then part of that, particularly during the servicing period that they've taken over, that becomes the purchaser's problem.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you're supposed to get onto it, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And but there are advantages. There are further advantages from the purchaser from doing that as well.
Oh, yeah.
In that, instead of having clients scattered all over the place, where they don't really know what it's much better if they're in a consistent arrangement.
Yeah, bring them into the purchaser's standard product line, approved product list, and strategy.
Yes.
So there's consistency across it, and from a best interest viewpoint, they're justified in doing it.
Yes, I mean, of course, we're not talking about a situation involving churning.
No.
It's absolutely not. But what we are thinking of is in these impaired client lists, you can have situations where they were in quite inappropriate products to start with.
Sure.
And you often find that, so it's a different. It's an ability to do that. But you do have to be prepared to. You have to be prepared to put in the time, and you're going to have to put a planner onto it who's experienced. Okay, so you can't just leave it. You have to take the view. Well, it's a renovation. I need to get in there and fix whatever needs to be fixed.
Adequate advisor and admin support to get the thing fixed, because as you said, it's a renovator's delight, these registers, but the whole point is you have to renovate.
Oh, that's right.
If you buy a thing in disrepair and you do nothing, it's still a ruin.
Well, that's right, hasn't it?
Just, yeah, no, absolutely.
You're hopeful that the market will improve, but it doesn't really work in this situation.
No.
Oh, there's one more thing which is really important, which I should say, okay, which is that financing is a problem at the moment.
Yes.
So, when you have these fantastic books, the ones that are really good and everything's perfect, you actually need to borrow a fair amount of money often. But with these impaired lists, it's not like that. So with an impaired list, what you frequently find is, say you can really be looking at amounts of one times, and sometimes even less than that. And so you look at that, and what usually happens is if they're impaired in this way, you're often paying almost nothing up front, or all you're doing is effectively paying an amount to pay for the vendor's legal fees. And then after that, so then there's often a payment at the end of year one, okay, and that might be that'll be a percentage of what you've made in year one from the book, and that might be a third, okay, and the same at the end of year two and the end of year three. And if you manage it well, okay, you don't need to have any borrowings.
We've seen that. We've actually written up contracts.
Oh yeah, we've done plenty of those.
Absolutely.
And it's but it's a great way to get around the current problem of trouble with financing and increased interest rates. So, and it's interesting that people sometimes don't think these books are out there, but with a bit of looking, we're always hearing about them either way. So it's worth looking for, and then if you're prepared to take it on, and what you do is by putting this extra time into looking after these books, the other beautiful thing is that you convert your income into a capital asset, which means that a lot of the CGT exemptions and concessions apply. So it's just a great outcome.
Yeah. And look, just as a final point, we're talking about this, renovators' delight, etc. We're looking at it from the point of view of the purchaser, but the profit, the super profit, if you like, is in the renovation. So people who are vendors, I mean, this applies equally to the vendor. We have the ability to do things to get them into a better shape and get a better multiple.
So thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you in another later video. Bye.
Bye now.